Welcome to Global Take, presented by SchoolRubric, a show about the international teaching experience. Teaching internationally is one of the best decisions you can make as an educator. In this show, we will meet teachers and administrators from around the globe living and working internationally. Our hope is that their stories and experiences will inspire you to explore the world of education. We will learn about all aspects of international teaching, from becoming an international teacher to what countries are the best fit for you, to the challenges of being away from your home country. Come take this unforgettable journey to the world of international schools with Global Take, presented by SchoolRubric.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to this edition of Global Take. My name is Nick DeForest. I am a founder and co-host of the Globetrotting ADs, and it's been a long time since I've been here doing a Global Take, and I'm so excited to be back here on SchoolRubric for this special edition. It's going to be a good one. I'm not by myself. We'll meet some two great international educators in a second, and we're going to talk about being more than a coach. You know, sports can have a very powerful tool for leveraging change and having a positive impact on a young person's lives. But it doesn't just happen automatically. And that's something we're going to talk about today, and how a coach needs to be more than just someone who teaches the X's and O's. So let's bring them on and welcome Lee Rosky. He's the Director of Athletics and Activities at IS Brussels, and Janelle Meisenheimer, a PE teacher and coach also at IS Brussels. So welcome, guys.
Thanks for having us. Thank you, Nick. I've never heard anybody call our school IS Brussels before, so that's nice that you found a different way to describe it.
There you go. Let's mix it up. That's great. Great start.
As long as our communications people aren't watching this, then it'll be great.
International School of Brussels, the Raiders, as you both are so proudly displaying there. Yeah, awesome. Well, hey, Lee, why don't you start us off? Just give us a little bit more of a background than when I said there, please.
Sure. As you said, I'm lucky enough to be the Director of Athletics and Activities at ISB. I've been doing this gig for about 7 years. I came to ISB as an IB teacher. I've kind of done the international circuit, was in the Middle East for about 9 years. Was in England. My last stop before this was teaching and coaching high school football in Texas. So I've had lots of great experiences along the way, and I'm lucky enough to land on my feet at a place like ISB and take on a role like this and work with quality educators like Janelle Meisenheimer, who's on the show tonight. So yeah, thanks for having us, and I appreciate the support you guys are giving the conference that we're going to talk about tonight.
Okay. Well, you're very welcome. It'll be great in a great discussion with Janelle. So Janelle, you give us a little background as well, please.
Yeah, so this is my third international school that I've been at, and all the schools I've taught PE, various grades, and coached soccer, and then a little bit of basketball here and there as well. And then growing up, I was an athlete with soccer, basketball, and track and field varsity club, track and field university. And I'm that coach that runs into Lee's office and annoys him about a new idea. So
That's great. We got to have people wanting to do more and bring new ideas to the table. And that's fantastic.
That's not the annoying part about Janelle. There's other that brings good ideas. That's the good part. The rest of the time, when she goes around, that's what's annoying.
It's great to have, often we have people from all different schools that may have just met on the show. So this is great to have a close colleague pair discussing this today. It's fantastic. Well, let's get right into it. We're going to talk about more than a coach and put some specifics of that in a bit. But let's start with the question of, what do you think is the greatest challenge facing international school athletic programs right now? Lee, as the director of IS Brussels, why don't you kick us off?
International schools are really interesting. I had this conversation with somebody today, a parent who's taken on a role at the school. who's American from Texas. And one of the things about international school athletics is that you have such a spectrum of cultures, right? So those nationalities that we all love to say, we've got 63 nationalities, whatever your school says, all of those have varying degrees of perception about what school sports represents. Mm-hmm. To one end of it, where it is, sports has no role in schools, like even in Belgium here, the schools in Belgium don't have sports in school. If you're going to play sports, you play in a club. Whereas at the other end of the spectrum, where I came from before I came here, being in Texas, I mean, they couldn't imagine the sports is more important than the school. Like it's what runs the place in some instances. So here you have this incredible spectrum where you're trying to basically create a program that pleases everyone along that spectrum. And that's incredibly challenging, because whatever you do, somebody on that spectrum is countering it, right? Either it's not enough, or it is, or it's too much, we're too heavily slanted one way or the other. And I think that's one of the things, not necessarily today that's challenging, but I would say, today that we're feeling that expat world pinch down a little bit. We're feeling, as coming out of COVID and rising inflation and all these things, the economic side starts squeezing the schools a little bit, and hopefully, that damage isn't too massive in the coming years. But even that, what are you looking to do? Well, let's trim a little bit of fat off of, some of the athletics or the arts and that's going to be a natural outcome, I think, over the next few years. So I think that's certainly a big challenge as all over the globe deals with the challenges that are in front of us now.
That's great. Yeah, that's great. And a great perspective of that spectrum, as you put it, Lee, because one nationality is not just like the other, it's all different, coming from all different backgrounds and experiences. From an AD's perspective to a coach, Janelle, what do you think one of the main challenges is right now?
Yeah, Lee and I have talked about it as well, building on with the cultural differences. Even in Belgium, girls playing sports starts really late. And I wasn't expecting that. I just came from Abu Dhabi, and I would have girls come up to me and say, that they really wanted to play, but their family was really skeptical about it, because maybe they're the first daughter in their family to want to try something like this. And you'd have to have some interesting conversations and lean into that discomfort of, I grew up in the United States, and my family was very supportive of that. It's very open, and I can't be judgmental of those families, and I have to try and be understanding. So from like a female lens, I'm getting girls, maybe I'm varsity, I'm the varsity soccer coach. I may be getting girls who it's only their second or third year ever playing soccer. Wow. And that at first can be mind blowing because of, again, where I grew up, but you have to meet them where they're at and get to know them and try and figure out how to do that season together on where they're at. So culturally, from a female lens, that can be a challenge sometimes, depending on where the girls come from.
And I think that's a big, there was a time at ISB when we were over 80% American. And so our coaches would sort of look out the window on the first day of school, waiting for some corn-fed, Iowa kids to walk through who were going to, run the American football team. We're going to play basketball. We're going to play baseball. We're going to, and the girls as well, and they came kind of ready built, and they were ready to go. And that's just not the case these days at international schools. And we've had conversations before, Nick, about our American football program where, the kids on the offensive lines from Qatar, and the Finnish kid playing receiver. And I'd say that in all our sports. I think Janelle's point is well taken. We've got to meet these kids where they are and think about where can we get them to be, rather than this idea was, well, these kids, they're no good, right? Like they don't measure up to, they're the best kids we got. And they're the kids who we want to, and what a sense of fulfillment you get, right? From taking that kid from here to there.
These are great points that's going to work into at least my thoughts for a question that's coming out soon. Just from my side, I think really one of the main things is that athletic programs aren't getting the support and maybe the attention that they really deserve. And I think especially coming out of COVID, the talk of wellness and well-being, I think athletics is getting overlooked a little bit. And we've been here. We were here providing great wellness opportunities for kids for a long time. And I think often schools are forgetting about that athletics is a part of a nice, well-rounded wellness program for their schools, and they can really get a lot out of it, and give the attention to the coaches, give the attention to the program, and really have everyone in the whole school on board. It's not just the athletic department over there, and they're doing their thing. It's really a part of the whole school community. I think a lot of our schools are kind of missing the boat or not utilizing us as well as they could be. Yeah.
I think I would say that, and Janelle can certainly disagree with me. She likes to do that, but I think at ISB we do pretty well with that. I think that athletics is respected a great deal. I never thought about myself becoming an AD to be honest. And at ISB, what I liked about it was that athletics is prominent. And athletics is seen as it's respected, and my job, I'm part of the leadership team of the school, and there's some respect given to that. And I think you're absolutely right. And certainly we could do a lot more of it. And we could utilize ourselves in a lot better way, be utilized in a lot better ways. But I do think that there are schools, and I think ours is one of them, that does see the power of athletics in the school.
I would agree. Like, we have these red out days, and the elementary kids, they're too young for our program, except our grade sixes can start. But RES elementary and ECC kids are like decked out in red on the playground. So I think there is a lot of support at our school. We're pretty fortunate with that. Yeah.
That's great. And to have that, you need the elementary teacher support. So just saying that, that the teachers mind.
Yeah.
That is great. That's great. Well, let's go to another one and talk more about coaches a little bit and being more in the coach. And I want to know why you guys think it's important for coaches to really embrace the concept that it's more to being a coach than X's and O's. Why that the concept of coaching for a greater purpose? Why is that important, Lee?
I was hoping you were going to go to Janelle first on this one.
I could go first.
Go for it.
I mean, again, Lee and I talk about this as well. Kids sign up for different reasons. They're most likely not signing up because they're like, I want to be the winner of this tournament or whatever it is. They're most likely signing up for social, the sense of feeling good at something, right? Maybe other parts of their life, they're like, oh, it's okay, I'm okay at it, but I'm really good at sport. Or they want to push themselves and try something new. Like, there's so many reasons why kids sign up. And there's so much that encompasses sport. Like, it's not just those wins and losses, like we said. And so why limit ourselves to just making it about only the skills and only the game? Like, I don't want to just speak for myself, but when I think back to sports, of course, I think of some of those, those awesome wins or those tough losses, but it's mostly like, I know that I am a better communicator because of sports. Like, obviously everyone can always improve, but I know that, or I know I have grit or good coping skills because of sports. That's like more of what I remember or think of or am grateful for those experiences. And I think we really need to tap into that and remember that when we're coaching as well, and talk about it with the kids, because maybe they can make those connections in it as well during practice and the games, in and out of the sport.
Right. Oh, that's great. That's great. Lee, what do you want to add to Janelle?
Yeah, I think, I hear myself speaking these days, and I realize that I'm an old man, and that it's not just the gray beard that's giving it off, but I would not want to be a kid today. I got two teenagers of my own, and we don't like to think about it, but it's different. My kids are just growing up different, including in an expat, and Janelle was an expat kid as well, but then I not as well as I was, but I think kids really need sports today, maybe even more than ever. And I think we have a tendency to protect kids, to keep them out of harm's way. which in one point is nice and it's great. But on the other hand, kids need adversity. They need to learn that it's okay to fail. They need to learn that things don't always go their way, but they can still, get up and dust themselves off. And there's all of those. So those translate to the coach, right? Because really it's about how the coach handles that situation and then the parents at home. But that's how the kid's going to learn to deal with it, right? So if they fail and I freak out, then they're going to learn from their coach that, hey, failing is bad, right? And and I get in trouble when I take a risk so that's a massive responsibility on my part, because these kids are really, I think kids today are seeking that kind of guidance more than maybe even we did as kids, or I don't want to speak for Janelle. She's much younger than me, but certainly I did as a kid. And I think that's a huge responsibility. And I think sometimes we might underestimate that. And one of the things I'd like to see is just us being a little more intentional about that connection. I think sometimes we understand the life lessons that kids are learning, and the thing, because just playing sports you get X, Y, and Z out of it, right? You learn to be part of a team and commitment and blah blah blah. But as a coach, I've got an opportunity to build on each of those things and to make even more of a connection, and to really connect with these kids. I'm using the word connect a lot, but I think you get the point.
No, absolutely. And I think the same, I tell my coaches, those traits that we were just talking about, they don't just happen. You need to teach them and talk about it. Let the kids know, this is why we're doing this. This is what you're going to learn by doing this. It's going to help you down the road, And
just to add on, Lee got me thinking about something I would talk about, because I had a team 4 years ago where I swear 90% of them, it was their first year ever playing. Mm-hmm. And so I would just always tell them, I honestly don't care that you lose. I care how you lose. Sometimes the other team is going to be better. They're going to be better, but
sure.
How are you going to lose to them, and how are you going to feel after, or how are you going to feel with each other after? Right. So, but yeah.
I think it's so important that we as coaches are teaching these things to the kids, because that breeds, they're going to be the next coaches, and I was brought up just in this environment, that it's not just about wins and losses my whole life. So as I grew up and heard about, in places of the US, parents are attacking officials and this massive pressure to get to the next level, that was foreign to me, because this is what I grew up with, the bigger role that sports play. And to me, that's all there ever is. It's such a small percentage of people that ever, go professional or make a living playing sports, that if you're just in it to win and to get better, it's not going to work out.
Well, even Lee's wife actually shared this article. It was, remember that CEO article she shared? It was, someone did research on women, CEOs that were women. And it was a crazy number. I'm making it up right now, and this is horrible, but the number was so high, I'm making it up, but it was 8 out of 10 of those women did sport. And that, when I read that article, it blew my mind.
Yeah, it's important, and it's true. Absolutely. Yeah. I
do think the one thing I would add, Nick, to what you're saying there, and thanks for giving my wife a shout out, Janelle, that will help. Randy. I do think that there is another end of that spectrum too, though. I think that sometimes at schools, international schools, and I've been around a little bit. I don't think we should throw the importance of winning, or at least the importance of competing, out the window. Sure. And I think it is important for kids to learn to be competitive. The arts program is competitive. There's only one lead in the play, right? Not everybody gets to take turns to be the lead. Yeah. We're an IB school, that the IB is competitive. When you get out there again, universities, I know that's not what you're saying, but I think that's an important point for me. And I've focused more of late in talking about competition. I'm not concerned about winning and losing as much as I'm concerned about our kids competing. And you could be competing. We had a young, inexperienced American football squad this year at ISB, but those kids competed. We lost games, but those kids didn't give up, and they fought and scratched and did. And that's what I was looking for. I wasn't necessarily caring about whether or not they were going to win or lose. It was that essence of competition. And I don't think that we should shy away from that first question you asked about international schools and challenges, that I don't think we should be shying away from the importance of teaching kids to compete and do it the right way.
Yeah.
That's great. That's what you said, you get them where you're at, right? They may have their first year playing soccer, but they can compete and they can work hard and they can try to get better, right?
100%.
But that definitely leads into the next question about international schools specifically. And if we think they're, more suited for educational athletics and this type of coaching for a greater purpose than, schools in the US or clubs in general. I wonder what you think about that, Janelle. Are we in a really good place here to do all these great things, or?
I think we are in a great place to do all these things because of the resources we have and the different perspectives from our families and kids, and hopefully coaches as well. There's hopefully diverse range of coaches as well. I was thinking about that question when I saw it earlier, and I think it's what people make of it. It could be a private school in the States or a public school anywhere, and it's the philosophy you have around being more than a coach and how it's made with that. Like my first international school I was at, we didn't really have the facilities, but I think we did really well on getting the students involved and getting them excited to compete and things like that. So I think it's a lot to do with the philosophy behind why you're there for the kids.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. What about you, Lee? You mentioned you were in Texas before Brussels. Any perspective from that?
Yeah, I mean, I think that what you mentioned clubs as well in the States. I mean, I think whenever you have sports in place, then you have an opportunity to teach, right? So a court or a field, or it's just an extension of a classroom, whether you're a club or a school in America or international schools. I do think that we're better suited in the sense, I agree with what Janelle just said. And I think because of the resources that we have, and that I always say to people, like people in the department, we all say, if we can't do it, who can? Like we have everything we need here. Like there is no such thing as impossible for us. So we can definitely, we're well suited to that. I would say that there's maybe an opportunity. We don't get to see it as readily. I think you don't. We have, amazing kids who are coming from upper middle class backgrounds who are coming in, and they're generally pretty focused, pretty on point. We're lucky that we teach really, really good kids, and so you can see that you make a difference, and you can see every once in a while but if when you're teaching in some places where the kids aren't as lucky maybe as our kids, I think there's a little more gratification in seeing that work as you're going, the impact that you're having on kids. Whereas for us, it's a little bit more, hearing about it later or assuming that you're having this kind of impact on kids. But I don't think that means that the impact is any less important.
Right. That's great. That's great, Lee. You're right. We are very lucky with resources. Many of our schools, and like you said, the people that we have at our schools, they really want to be there for the most part, right? Well, look, coaching is so broad. There's so many different areas. We're talking about generalizing, more than a coach in character and things, but there's so many different areas that you can focus on to improve. And I wonder if Janelle, maybe you can go first, if you think there's one overlooked area or two things that you like to focus on or think that other coaches should.
Yeah, I think there's, where do I start, Lee? No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, I think reframing sport for girls is hugely underlooked or overlooked. Sorry. I'm just trying to make a lot of connections right now in my head. And this is even something that I'm guilty of until the last couple of years, and still trying to unlearn a lot. And I'm a female, but I had male coaches most of my career, and I ran track and field in university, and it was male coaches. And I dislocated my knee a couple of years ago, and someone told me that was more prevalent in women. And I was like, what? That's not fair. Why? And I went down this rabbit hole of learning so much about menstruation and sport. And I was getting angry and inspired and a little bit of everything while I, listened to podcasts, read, talked with people. And I'm angry because I did so much sport and I never had any coaches. I'm trying not to get like angry now, talk to me about like being an athlete with your period and how like females have this awesome thing called their period that helps them know that they're healthy. Males don't have that. Like our period health tells us if we're healthy. So if females are doing sports and they're not having their period, something is wrong. Or it goes in, I don't want to go into too much. I could go on forever. Lee knows this, but reframing sport for girls can really build that strength of character and them understanding their bodies, going through puberty and being in those stages with sports. We have way too many girls drop out when it comes to middle school because they're going through puberty and they don't know, what a good sports bra can do for your health, like how powerful a good sports bra can be, or just learning more about your period and what different symptoms mean and how you can, just try and get a little more sleep the week before your period and eat a little bit more. And that can help your symptoms a lot. Every girl and woman is different, but that's something that I read a lot about. So I think we need to reframe a lot for our girls and support them in every stage of their life to be healthier, prevent injury, and just be more confident in their bodies and in sport and keep them in sport.
Yeah. Wow, that's great. That's great. And as a female, not knowing about that. So how many male coaches are out there coaching females like myself that also should know about all these things, right? To have those conversations, or at least to direct them to people that they might be more comfortable talking to about, right?
Yeah, or resources as well. There's quite a few out there, or apps that track periods, and some of those apps give information, and that can even help them a lot too. So, but yeah.
Great. Well, that leads into the conference, and I'm looking forward to sit in your session at the conference. You have some time. We've hinted at the conference a little bit. It's August 19th to 21st at the International School of Brussels. So Lee, I want to focus a little bit onto the conference now. Get some details and really talk about it, because it's called the Coaching for a Greater Purpose Conference. It's going to be exciting. It's the first time in Europe at an international school for a coaching conference. And I want to ask you first, it's focused on the greater purpose and not a sport specific event or one team, one sport. And I wondered why you went the way you did.
I think people are going to think this was planned and that we actually worked on this, but I think the greatest plug I could give this conference is what Janelle just did. And I think that to see somebody with that much passion and to see somebody with that sort of an understanding and gone out and figured it out for someone can speak so well to that topic. Like I'm lucky to work with people like Janelle and to have her sit and be able to. Not every school is lucky enough to have people like Janelle who are there, and lots of schools do. And hopefully people, Janelle's role in this will encourage others to do the same. It takes a bit of courage to stand up and say, she always comes in, when she comes in, she says, I'm going to annoy you with this again. And I know you don't want to hear it. And I do, I do want to hear it. And I do. She's impacted the way that I'm raising my daughter as a student, as a female athlete. Like that's life-changing for these. So the biggest plug that we could give is somebody like Janelle sitting here and talking about something like this with that kind of passion. And that I think that answers your question, Nick. If you want to know how to hit a better overhand serve, go to YouTube, and there's 63,000 videos on how to do it. But connecting with your colleagues and sharing stories like Janelle just did, and being able to I just feel that kind of energy, and that it just revives myself as a coach and as somebody who loves sport when you sit and listen to this. And I think that would be my answer. And then going back to what we talked about before, just the role that we have as coaches. I am being a little bit facetious, but the technical stuff you can find online. We'll imagine we'll talk about it. John O'Sullivan is our keynote speaker in our department right now. We're reading Every Moment Matters, and they talk about he's talking about at one point where I am right now. We've all heard these things where you go through a survey of kids, like, why do you play sports? And winning comes like 48th, right? Yeah. And first is like to have fun, or even, I don't even think it was fun. I think it was about connecting with coaches, like having coaches who connected with you and having that relationship. Well, that's it. Like that's what we need to be talking about. And that's what we need to be sharing best practice with each other on. So, and I think in particular these days with COVID and with, Black Lives Matter and social justice issues and all of these things that are going on, I think our role is more important than ever.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. Well, we saw the website there. Lee, I have a couple more questions for both of you about the conference, but maybe give us a few nuts and bolts first before we go too far.
So the conference is taking place the 19th to the 21st of August. Friday night. We're considering this a conversation. We want, like I just said, we're coming in, we're sharing best practice. We want coaches to meet each other. We want coaches to network. We hope that this will actually bring that, the sort of sports in Europe, this particularly the international school landscape, kind of closer together. So that we're going to start the conversation with a panel, including John O'Sullivan and several others of our speakers who will have, we'll have a Q&A. We'll have a conversation with the coaches who are there. Where do we want to go? What do we want to do? What do we want to talk about? So Friday night is really about that piece, that conversation, and then the social event. And then the meat of the conference will happen that's all day Saturday and then Sunday morning. So the idea is that people can come into Brussels, travel on Friday, arrive kind of, for dinner time kind of thing on Friday. And then they're flying out again on Sunday afternoon. We know a lot of schools are starting school, around that time. We start school the following Thursday. So, it's not the perfect timing perhaps, but we want to make it easy for people coming in and out. And then we're starting, one of the things I like, we're starting both days with an active start. So we have some things, we have a couple of companies coming with some kind of innovative games that they want to introduce. So the PE teachers in us might get some ideas, but even we're lucky at ISB with some of the facilities we have. We sit in a beautiful forest, so we might have a run first thing in the morning, or a yoga class, or we have a thing called a strong box at school, which is basically a gym in a box, and we'll set that up. And Strong Box is one of our sponsors as well. So we'll provide a workout. So getting everybody active to start the day, maybe work off some of that Belgian beer and fries that I'm sure will be part of the social side as well. So that's kind of the plan. And we'll be coming out now that we're getting more and more speakers in place. We're going to build in more details into that conference schedule over the next couple of weeks, so people will see more of the people like Janelle who will be part of the presentations.
So you're still looking for presenters, right? So what kind of topics are you looking for?
The conversations obviously around coaching for a greater purpose. I had an interesting conversation with a coach today who wanted to bring in, he said, I want to do this certain task. I don't want to give it away. He's got a certain thing that he does in his coaching. It's very practical, and it's a great idea, and it's a great tool. And I think lots of coaches would be interested in it. But I told him, I want you to flip this around, and I want you not to present on the tool. I want you to present on what that does for kids and what the outcome is, what that does in terms of leadership, what that does in terms of teaching kids to speak up for themselves, what that does in terms of kids being self-advocates. That's what we want to focus on. And then if people are walking away with that tool, that's fantastic. But what I want to do is actually, there's lots of coaches who are very intentional about doing this, and what I mean by that is that they actually think about, how can I impact these kids? The question that you asked Janelle, and she answered so well. one of the things I was thinking about is what can coaches do better. I think that we need to look at the kids we're coaching and adjust to them.
Yep.
Right. And you need to connect with those kids. You need to understand what do those kids need. And I think that's one of the things that we want to do when you're presenting. We want those kinds of topics where you've got ideas, you've got ways to think about how we can reach kids. Or the other part of it that I'm really interested in too, and I sort of gave ISB a shout out about our community and so on, ways in which you're able to reach your community, and ways in which you're able to connect with parents, and because that's a huge part of this as well in terms of coaching for a greater purpose. We don't only have relationships with the kids we teach, but we reach their families as well, making impacts. And so hopefully those are the types of topics that we're looking for.
Oh, that's great.
I was going to say community, Lee. I was going to say going bigger.
The more you hang around with me, Janelle, the smarter you get.
I was going to say community as well, or even, I don't know if anybody has programs going on of kind of like the big sister, big brother kind of a thing with younger athletes. We haven't talked specifically about that, but like Lee and I have talked about like how do we get like our younger kids involved so then they feel comfortable and confident about joining our programs later, and it's not this big scary thing. So I think that would be really cool if there is something else with community in that way as well.
Right. Well, Janelle, let me stay with you and let me ask you a question. What are you looking most forward to, or what are you most excited about for this conference, especially being at your school, being one of the hosts and a presenter?
I think it's always cool to set the precedent of it. It's the first one. So I think that's really exciting, and just starting these conversations that we're all so excited and passionate about, and maybe leaning into potential discomfort, like, for example, periods that I was talking about earlier, and learning and growing from that. Because like what Lee was saying, not making our programs athlete centered is missing a huge opportunity of meeting them where they're at and trying to help them reach whatever goal that is, because like what we've been talking about, they're joining for different reasons. So it's not fair for us to project everything of us onto them.
Yeah. Great.
So I'm excited to talk about that with other people and just see what they're doing with their programs and learn more.
That's great. Great answer. Yeah. Lee, what about you as the main host, main organizer?
God help us all. In a bigger sense, I think the idea, like Janelle was saying, just being the host and bringing this together and the networking it's going to be so cool. Nick, you must be thinking about this, like from the work that you do, and just to see everybody together, in one room and making those connections. And that's like you said, in Europe, we don't do this. We haven't done this as a coaching group. I'd say more specifically, like I said, we're reading John O'Sullivan's book right now. And I know who John is, and I've seen his TED Talks. I've listened to a couple of podcasts. I certainly was aware of John O'Sullivan. Then I met him online. We had conversations about the conference, and just seemed so unassuming, and I kind of underestimated him a little bit. Maybe I read this book, and I'm like, now I understand why people kept saying to me, so John O'Sullivan's Zooming in, like he's going to be there virtually. I'm like, no, he's going to be there. What? This is it. So I think that's going to be, the more I read and the more we get into this, the more I think he's just the perfect guy to guide us on this conversation. So I'm really excited about that part.
That's super. Well, that's great. Well, I'm definitely excited as well. I'll be in Brussels for sure. We're planning to do a live global take. I would love to do maybe a live podcast as well. Something fun, definitely. I'm working on a presentation that I'll submit as well. I know that's exciting, but I want to get it right. So actually listening to your answers today are going to help me direct that a little bit. But yeah, so it great conversation today. I know it's definitely a push and a bit of a promotion for the conference as well, but a great conversation about something, that has a greiter purpose. Yeah. To use the term, because really, the three of us and everyone out there, we're more than just coaches. Right. And that's the whole point. So getting together and talking and learning, as you both mentioned, is going to be fantastic in any year, but especially after the last few years that we've had behind these screens. So I'm really excited. I'm really glad that you guys joined us today, and just want to give you a last chance to say anything about the conference or something we missed to wrap up. Janelle, anything?
No, I think that I love having that conversation, just talking about sports and what it can do for people, and kind of proving that it is more than just a ball on a field or whatever, that some people think it is. So I really enjoyed it. Thank you.
You're very welcome. Lee?
Well, from a practical side of things, we need to have people sign up, and we need to have people attend. This is something we haven't mentioned. It's part of, actually, there is an alliance of schools. There's 5 of us. Dusseldorf International School, Dusseldorf American School, London, Frankfurt International School, Copenhagen, and then ourselves. And we want this to be a long-term project. So one of those schools will host the next one. But we need to get this thing off the ground to begin with. So people, what I'm telling other ADs is, you need to support this event in order for us to convince the next school to do the same. And I know, we talked about the financial impacts at the moment, and maybe not all of our budgets are where we would like them to be, but really hoping that schools, particularly around us, around Europe, will send a few representatives. So if you go to the website, you go to registration, is actually an early bird. There's 2 discounts. One discount is for a group, and the other discount is for signing up before June 1st. So there's certainly lots of excitement around it. There's lots of buzz around it. Lots of people are talking about it with the help of guys like you, Nick. And we just hope that turns into a full crowd when it goes to August.
Yeah.
I hope so too. And I think, it shouldn't. Why not? Come to Brussels before your school kicks off. Would be fun anyway. Never mind to have the conference. No, it will help spread the word, and it's going to be a great event. As I said, I'm really looking forward to it. And thank you both for being here. So, go to the website, go to that one, check out more details of the conference. Get in touch with Lee if you have questions, or you can find out more on the website. And of course, check out everything on SchoolRubric, and let us know if you have any ideas for upcoming episodes and other great things out there, because we'd love to share and help connect the international school communities. So thanks for joining us, and maybe until Brussels.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Thanks, Nick.
Thanks for watching and learning with us at SchoolRubric with educators from around the globe. For more access to articles, magazines, podcasts, live episodes, our international school directory, courses, and more, visit us at schoolrubric.org. Thank you.